Join host Laura Brown as she introduces life-changing intuitive tools, live on-the-air intuitive tarot readings, guided energy work to help you align with your highest good, and inspiring conversations. Each show blends Laura's natural psychic gifts with her traditional training as a counselor and coach to provide you with a down-to-earth approach to living your most aligned, most inspired, and most elevated life. So grab your drink of choice, sit back, relax, and join us for another episode of Intuitive Alchemy Radio. Here is your host, Laura Brown.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. I am your host, Laura Brown, and I am hoping you had an amazing week and weekend. My family and I, we decided to head out one last time on the boat and to soak up some sun and just allow our kids to have a little bit of fun. We just put the last one into school today. So this was kind of our last little official summer weekend. I know technically that doesn't happen until Labor Day, September 1st, or is it 2nd this year? So we are a little ahead of the game, but our schools start a bit early. So hopefully you all have a little bit more fun in the sun and relaxation. But for us, it's back to the grind, back to getting into our routine and our schedule and all that fun stuff, which I don't really mind. I'm ready for it. I'm definitely ready for it. So today, on today's episode, we are going to be talking a little bit about flipping that manifesting switch. But I wanted to see, I don't know if maybe you have read this article. If not, I highly suggest you go out and find it on the interwebs. It's on newscientist.com, I believe, is the website. And its title is In the Space of 2 Hours, Milky Way's black hole has gotten 75 times brighter and we don't know why. Well, this happened in the space of 2 hours, folks, and it happened right during and on the heels of that peak Lionsgate portal that I mentioned in the last show. And I'm sure a lot of other people have been talking about it and you've been hearing about it everywhere. So I'm not going to go super into it, but I think it is so amazing that we have actual, articles, mainstream science-related articles that are speaking to these major light blasts that we have been having. And so the gist of it is that basically in the space of 2 hours, the brightness had changed 75-fold. So 75 times brighter. And the article kind of intimates that they don't know why, but those of us in the know, we actually are aware that it's all about those light bursts, those cosmic downloads, those major shifts that are, coming down or had been at that time coming down in such strength. And all of it was designed to cleanse and to purify and to purge and to elevate. So there was lots of letting go. But I love that we had this beautiful article. And again, it's over on New Scientist that just explained how something like this, that for many people is very nebulous. It's sort of, is this happening? Is it not? Those of us who are, paying attention to these types of things, who are, kind of aware of the subtle energies, we know it to be true. But, a lot of people kind of question, is this legit? And in our case, this was a kind of proof in the pudding type of event, this article on New Scientist, because it highlights and it demonstrates that something that we have felt on a subtle energetic level is also producing real world, tangible, after effects or, images in this case. And, scientists are seeing this and they're taking notice. And something else that we likely had felt over the last couple of days is especially my Perseus people out there, the Perseid meteor shower, it kind of hit the peak, at least in the U.S., and I believe actually worldwide, if I recall. Though depending on where you were, you saw it or, maybe didn't. I know here in Colorado, we didn't see it quite as robust as we had hoped, but it hit its peak the other day. And it really, this meteor shower, as well as the Lion's Gate closing, which it closed on the 12th, so just 2 days ago, this signaled the end of a 4-month cycle, 4 sometimes very long months that dredged up so much gunk, so much that has just been pulled up from the depths of our being, that has come and bubbled up, emotions, trigger points, lots of different, sometimes very tense and very uncomfortable things have come up, and we've all felt it. And it was a bit like hitting this wall in a sense. You know, it was just so very, very intense for all of us at one point or another. And this is really our spirit, our cosmic divine self that is opening and awakening on a very, very deep level. But the physical body is not always quite as quick to the draw as our spirit or our divine self is. So many of us have, potentially experienced physical symptoms of cleansing. So we have to be careful because we don't have to claim that. I always like to make that very, very clear. You know, we humans sometimes feel like awakening needs to be this very arduous, very difficult, hard, or challenging process. But in truth, that's more of our 3D self. That's more of our human self that is conditioned and primed and programmed to perceive this experience as needing to be hard. You know, we're not really awoke or awakened if it hasn't been difficult. And, I'm speaking now with this to the part of you that really knows better. That very, very primordial divine part of you that knows that ascension and all of these downloads and everything that we have been experiencing over the course of the last 4 months, this awakening doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to feel like we've kind of gotten hit by an energetic truck, nor is it something that we have to earn, by the way. It's not something that we only receive or get access to after a great deal of tribulation. Like, that's just utter bull. It's not real. It's lies. That's kind of our human conditioning that's very much attached to the trouble and challenge paradigm, which, if you think about it, really is resistance in its highest, strongest form. So if you have been experiencing some ascension symptoms, and just so you know, what those can look like is anything from really, really excessive energy, like feeling super listless, feeling like you just got to get up and go, having trouble sleeping, to the opposite end of that spectrum and feeling really lethargic, feeling almost like you're on the verge of getting sick, having a cold. If you're like me, and I think we all experience a version of this, right when we're on the cusp of getting a sickness. It's kind of like our energy dips and we can't quite tell, is that a sore throat or, is the air just dry? So it's that threshold moment is very, very common with these ascension type symptoms. And it is, this feeling sometimes too of kind of waking up between the hours, particularly of 2 and 4. Potentially having actual physical symptoms of detox, much like if you were going through a detox program or through a cleanse of some sort. So those are sort of the ascension symptoms. But if you've been feeling those, if you've been going through those, I want to just let this land with you for a moment. You absolutely do not have to claim those. You can just close your eyes here for a moment as we open those portals of energy and take a very, very deep, deep breath in with me. Letting that breath in, feeling that shift of energy. We don't have to claim that. We don't have to make that a part of our experience. We can call in and allow those alchemic winds to blow away anything that does not serve us, any symptoms that we are telling ourselves that we have to feel. Because that's the other part of it, right? If we are locked in this idea, this perception that ascension has to be hard, that it has to be difficult, or it's not really happening, that is very much, something that can energetically sort of lock those symptoms onto us. It can kind of be a doorway through which those symptoms can come to us. It's not right or wrong. Let's be honest. There is no such thing in this case as right or wrong. There just is. And our human part of ourselves, which is very much as relevant as the divine and the, spiritual part of ourselves, it is just as valid, and we need it. So it's not about, vilifying that darn human self that's locked into challenge paradigms and wants to feel these nasty ascension symptoms, and revering the other half of ourselves. It's just about understanding that, we're both simultaneously. And that can be a complex journey. It can be a very complex journey, as I'm just kind of sweeping energetically in the ethers here to help us shake off the last of that 4-month cycle that we have been through. Because now we see that all this drudgery is over. It's come to an end, a completion, and we have definitely purged, and we have definitely let go, and maybe we're still kind of shaking off, sloughing off some of what it is that we had experienced over the course of the last 4 months. But now we can really breathe in so sweetly, so gently, that new beginning. That fresh start, right? That beautiful sort of moment of going and sensing, and see if you can feel this energy that's pouring in right now. Maybe you feel it in your feet. Maybe you feel it in your solar plexus. Maybe it just feels a little bit like a cool little electrical pulse in your fingertips. Or maybe you feel nothing at all, and that's absolutely okay too. But there is this sense that the energy has definitely shifted and that things are freeing up. And where before the energy was very much like going one step forward and being forced to take 4 or so back, now we can feel that lightness. You can feel how those obstacles aren't really there anymore. And they never were there, to be honest. Again, it's just sort of the way things are perceived by our humanness. Anything that came up had medicine. Any challenge we faced, it had its purpose, it had its reason. But now we feel it's time. It's time to get moving. And what perfect way to do that than to begin this exploration of really flipping the manifesting switch. And today of all days, we have the Sun and we have Venus, who are now in alignment or conjunct in astrospeak. And the Sun really represents our inner self, who we are, what we're about, what we're after, while Venus represents love and beauty, possibility, and attraction, magnetism. So now is a really great opportunity before we get into the 5 different ways that we can flip that manifesting switch. We really want to use, or rather work with, this Sun and Venus conjunction or alignment to very much get clear on what it is that we desire for ourselves. Venus is shining a very beautiful light that helps us to know who we are, to begin to define what it is that we want, while simultaneously, because of Venus's attraction and magnetism, to draw towards us those people, those resources, those opportunities, those things that we need internally as well as externally, that we need in order to begin to see things aligning and setting us on the path to what it is that we want. So again, this is a great time to dial in to taking that step back and asking yourself, what is it that I want? Because I will tell you, in my 18 years of doing this sacred work, the number one thing that blocks our manifesting is that we don't know, we're not dialed into what it is that we want. We may have this very nebulous sort of, vague kind of sense of, I want a relationship. Well, then, that's great. I want a relationship. I remember putting that out there in the ether myself, and I attracted to myself Captain Narcissist. At first he seemed really good, but things kind of went south rather fast. And, the question is, it always becomes, and I know I did this, and I know many of my clients, and I know a lot of you listening have done this. Why didn't I manifest? Well, you did. You manifested Captain Narcissist. I manifested Captain Narcissist. Just because it wasn't the relationship that I truly wanted didn't make it an unsuccessful manifestation. But the truth is that I was not dialed in to specifically what I wanted. It's not enough to just know I want a relationship, because that opens Pandora's box for any type of relationship. And guess what? That includes those that we need to go through, because they're going to teach us a little something, and though it may not be comfortable, that's where a lot of our lessons come from. So this is not just about kind of going, oh, I want more money, or, oh, I want a relationship. This is getting nitty gritty, folks. Okay. Especially with this Sun and Venus in alignment right now. This is about getting very detailed, very granular about what it is that you want, so that you are actively manifesting that. You are actively working towards that. And it's so important, because without that, I assure you, you will struggle to manifest, at least successfully, in the sense of getting what you want. It's not always the ones we want that are those successful manifestations. It's all a manifestation. So clarity, first and foremost, with the Sun and Venus conjunction is absolutely important. Now, we're going to go on and head over into a break. When we come back, we're going to get into those 5 ways that you can flip the manifesting switch. So stay with us, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. I am your host of Intuitive Alchemy Radio, Laura Brown. I want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We are talking today about flipping that manifesting switch. And I left you with the thought before we went to break that getting very clear on what it is that you desire for yourself is very important. And I always tell my clients when I'm working with them that this is a time for getting granular, time for getting very specific. It doesn't necessarily mean you are tackling the how, but you are tackling the what and the why. This is very important, and I'll talk more at some point about this, but you want to kind of see to it as like you're giving your order over to the universe. The universe ultimately is going to determine the how and the when, but the why as well as the what, that's very much important for you to define. And so, when it comes to this idea of manifesting, I want to be completely honest. I definitely have a secret to tell. I hope you're ready. Is that I am secretly a sucker for a quick fix. A quick fix, an easy button. And I know. That is such a dirty set of words, right? Quick and fix so seldomly fit very well together. We wish they did, and maybe sometimes we'll eke out okay, but for the most part, they're typically a recipe for disaster. But I can't help it. I am a firm believer that just about anything has an easier route, that there's an easier way to do things, and that includes manifesting. So the entire idea behind effortless manifesting, which is the process that I teach and take my clients through in my Elevate mentorship, is that manifesting is 100% a natural process. Much like breathing, much like blinking, it is an automatic process. We don't have to muscle our way through it. We do not have to effort our way through it. In fact, we make it difficult often by overthinking it, creating subconscious blocks, and generally ignoring our energetic health as though it's nothing more than sort of new age woo-woo. But the very nature of the cosmos is to transmute energy into matter. This creative, generative energy, folks, has a singular purpose. It has one purpose, and that's to become matter, to become a thing. Ergo, effortless manifesting is indeed our birthright and is entirely possible. And if you think it's not, I urge you again, like I said before the break that we went on, think of the times where maybe you manifested something you didn't want. Think of just how many times you've manifested and had these little miracles that popped up kind of out of the blue, like hilariously falling from the rafters and just plopping into your lap. All of it is manifesting. All of it is co-creation. All of it is generative, even if it's not what we exactly wanted. But how can we flip? How can we flip the switch? How can we really get into that sort of flow and that vein of easily and maybe even instantly getting out of the paradigm of doing and overdoing the process of manifestation and move more into that effortless manifestation? Well, lucky for you, I have a few tried and true suggestions. If you've ever worked with me or if you have not, then some of these may in fact not be new territory. But if you have not, this may be something that kind of, ruffles you in some ways. But I want that. And in fact, as we go forward, I want you to think very, very clearly on where you're feeling resistance. Because when you're feeling resistance, if there's a part of you that is going, this is utter BS. Like, what does this have to do with manifesting? Please, what? I want you to pay attention to that. I want you to know that these words are working and speaking to the part of you that already knows. So the first thing that we need to do, and it's not going to be polite, is we need to shut up. We need to close our lips. And I do apologize. But the simple truth is we all need to speak a little less and listen a bit more. We are a species infatuated with our voices. And trust me, the irony of my being on the radio telling you this is not lost on me. But think of how often you speak, how often we speak. And then consider for a moment what is being said. We're often telling our old story, right? We're often complaining about the person who's driving too slow in front of us as I, hurry to get off to work, or maybe we're bemoaning the electric bill that's sky high, and maybe we're telling ourselves over and over again how we're just so tired of cleaning up after our kid who spills their milk for like the 10th time before 10 a.m. Or maybe that's just me. We spend so much time though. So much time being very, very loose at the lips. And so often the contents are more habitual and they're static. It's expanding by virtue of the tiny spells that our words cast. The emotion behind the words and the focus you're putting behind the words you speak, they're expanding the very pathways of creative energy that we don't want to see expanded. So the solution is to be quiet. Just to say little and listen much, much more. Listen to those around you. Listen to the birds outside your window. Truly witness and open to the natural flow of life happening all around you. Speak with the utmost intention and curate each thought behind each word with the utmost care. You want to expand with flipping the switch, the channels that you do want to see expand within your life. And with this deeper awareness, this intentionality, this deliberateness around how we speak and how often and the contents therein, you'll find a surefire way to do just that. Now, I'm going to talk about getting clear again. Are you ready? Because this is the next step. This is how important it is. See, we're taught, or at least I was when I was in school long ago to become a lawyer, and I was also studying sociology, is that oftentimes we need to hear things over and over again in order for them to really land, in order for them to really make their mark within us. And so as I'm sitting here today, there's a reason why I'm repeating this. I'm sure you've heard the idea of getting clear before. I'm sure you have heard it over and over again. I know you've already heard it in the small amount of time, this half an hour that we have spent together this afternoon. But it bears repeating, and this is why. If you don't know what you're really after, how are you going to know when you get it? And let's spill the tea here. What you really think you want probably isn't what you want. For years and years and years, I strived for money. I came from very humble beginnings. There were times when I would come home, or my brothers and I would come home, and the electricity would be turned off. Our car was being repossessed. I always, my main aspirations, as awful as it may sound, I don't think it's really awful if we shed that money is the root of all evil programming. But for me, I just didn't want to live like that. So I strived for years to be successful with money. I wanted my business to be successful. And for me, that meant buckets and buckets of money. And then I got it. I earned more than my parents ever earned. I earned more than what they earned together as well as apart. I was rolling in it. I had those buckets of money. And I realized with a very, very sinking pit in my belly that I didn't feel satisfied. I had to do some pretty difficult digging into some very, very dirty internal waters to realize, as many of us do, that what I wanted most was not money, but the security that I felt money brought me. So you see, for me, money was a tool for not having the utilities cut off, or having to move in the middle of the night because we couldn't pay our rent, or having to watch a car being repoed as we walked out of a movie rental joint. All of which was what I experienced and did not want my children experience. And in truth, I had that. I definitely had the ability to provide those things, but I still didn't even realize it because I had attached security to money without realizing that it was really security that I was after, which meant that every time money floated slightly up or down, my sense of security did as well. And that didn't feel at all good. So by clarity, I'm talking we get granular on both a contextual feeling level as well as on a tangible level. Because like we talked about, it's not enough to say, I want a relationship so that I can, get Captain I cheat on my partner with anything that walks, okay? That I'm sure is not, I'm betting anyways, but that's not what maybe you had in mind when you thought of really manifesting a relationship. And, there's a reason we could go on and on about that, but I digress. We move into a place of getting into alignment and really placing our order with the universe when we get clear on what we want. That's the thing about effortless manifesting, is that it just by getting that clarity, and I've had this with my clients, I'm telling you, it blows their mind every time. We will spend several sessions just getting very granular about what we don't want in a relationship, because that's important to know as well, and what we do want. And the same goes whether they're looking for a relationship or money, it doesn't really matter. We get super, super clear. What do we want? How does this relationship make us feel? What do we offer this relationship? Why do we want it? All of that. And then we set it and we forget it for a while. Because just simply going through that process is an alchemy. It is transmuting the energy. You are sending an entirely different broadcast to the universe about what it is that you want. And if you're thinking, I don't really need to know all of that, that's too much. Remember, if I walk into McDonald's to get my kids a Happy Meal, okay, and they want chicken nuggets, I would tell, and if I went up there and I just told the person behind the counter, hi, how are you today? I would love some chicken. Do you think that I would get what I want? I mean, there's a potential chance, right? I might get the chicken nuggets, or I could get a chicken sandwich or whatever else, maybe a salad with some chicken, which I would love, but my kids, it would be mutiny, okay? So this is what we need to understand, is that we have to ask for what we want, and that in and of itself is why there's so much resistance sometimes around this idea of getting very, very granular. Because we may not even know, and we may have a lot of stickiness, a lot of molassiness when it comes to asking clearly what it is that we want. And again, we cannot control the how or the when. What we do control is the order that we place. And just having that clarity, I just had a client last night in our session who said, is this crazy? Is this really happening? Because the exact person that back in March we had outlined she wanted to attract, even down to the beard, came into her life. And she thought she was losing her mind. But it's not. She wasn't losing her mind. This is the magic, folks. This is what happens. And the alchemy, again, is not something we have to go after. We don't have to muscle our way to it. We don't have to effort our way to it. It was absolutely 100% effortlessness. We just simply got clear, and that alone was enough to begin opening the portals of generative energy to bringing this gentleman to her. The next step after clarity is we're going to stop doing the opposite of what we want. So when we are calling something else in, but then all our energy and focus is on something else, or accepting far less than what we are in truth wanting, we are sending some pretty mixed signals to the universe, as well, and this is important, as well as sending mixed signals to ourselves. This represents this sort of mixed signal, this doing one thing and wanting another. This represents a gap between our unconscious desires and our subconscious beliefs. It takes so much of us out of energetic alignment with what we desire. What makes effortless manifesting so effortless is that we tackle the energy of manifesting as well as the psychology of manifesting. And in this instance, if you're doing one thing and saying another, both are going to be out of whack. If you want a loving relationship with somebody who is totally available, who is open and loyal, I cannot then, or you cannot then, or we cannot then partake in casual relationships with people who are emotionally unavailable and who consistently sort of put us on the back burner and make us feel like they're not there for us and they don't support us. If I do that, as much as that instant gratification may be very delicious at the time, we may be so starving that we're willing to take those crumbs. But the fact is, when we do that, our actions speak directly to the gap between what is going on in my subconscious and what's going on in my conscious. My conscious desires are like, yay, I want all the juicy, delicious things that life has to offer. But my subconscious is like, do you really? Or do you think you're worthy of that? Do you think you're ready for that? Or how long is that going to take? Are you going to really be alone for all that time? Here's somebody who maybe isn't totally available, but are you going to really be that picky? Are you going to really be that of a control freak and not give a person a chance? Or who knows, maybe they'll even change for you. The subconscious, sometimes there's some shadiness in there. Sometimes there's some wounds within there. There's some programming and some paradigms that can be very limiting and can make us feel as though maybe we're not worthy of what we consciously desire. But on an energetic level, we're taking part in something that is the opposite of what we want. And we're creating emotional resonance that does not fit. And we're going to get a little bit more into that here when we come back from the break. We'll tackle the rest of these tips on flipping that manifesting switch and more when we come back. Join us.
Bringing you the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio, your conscious lifestyle on steroids.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Conflict comes in many forms and often triggers a fight-or-flight response. Some of us gravitate toward conflict, while many will stop at little to nothing to avoid it. Unfortunately, what we resist will persist, which often forces us to face our fear and deal with it head-on. Join me during my show, Conflict Rising, as I discuss the important role of conflict with leaders who have moved through it successfully. Tune in Thursdays at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Remember, it's always darkest before the dawn.
Hi, I'm your host, Smokey Colbert, filling in for Smokey because after 75 years of...
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Turns out there's much more to say. Nearly 90% of wildfires are caused by us humans being careless, dumping our used barbecue coals willy-nilly. Guess the song was wrong. We did start the fire. That's why I respect Mother Nature and her trees, whether coniferous or new car scented. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. I'm Laura Brown, host of Intuitive Alchemy Radio, and we are talking today about flipping that manifesting switch. Now, before the break, we were talking about stopping the perpetual sort of behavior of doing one thing that goes in the face of what it is that we say that we want. And I talked and touched on the kind of gap that represents between our subconscious and our conscious. Now, that's very big topic. In fact, there's an entire, segment of shows that I can dedicate to that alone. So I won't go much further into that. But what we need to also understand is happening when we are doing the opposite of what we are manifesting or saying that we want. On an energetic level, what is happening is that we are flipping our emotional resonance. So we often instead, when we're doing the opposite of what we want, like the example I gave is if I am engaging in casual relationships when in truth I want a lasting, long-term, go the long haul type relationship, what happens is that I often am going to feel deflated. I'm going to feel let down, disappointed, regretful. There's going to be shame then that comes up. I'm going to be mad at myself for continuing to do things that, in fact, doesn't, give me what it is that I want or get me closer to what it is that I want. When we have what we desire for ourselves, however, we feel the opposite of that. We're going to feel elated. We're going to feel joyful. We're going to feel hopeful. There is a distinct difference between the emotional frequency of what we want versus what we do not want. So we learn, and we should be encouraging ourselves to learn to invest our time and energy exclusively and mostly in those things which are furthering our alignment to what it is we desire, and less, far, far less time accepting less than what we desire if, in fact, we wish to be in alignment with the thing we're trying to call in. We have to understand that emotional frequencies and resonance, our broadcast, our emotional broadcast, as I like to call it, is a pivotal component to manifesting. And if we consistently are doing things and thinking and believing things, which we'll get into in a moment, those things that make us feel those heavier emotions, not that there's any one emotion that is good or bad. This is not a spiritually bypassing process. This is not about, just think really good thoughts and you'll get what you want. No, it's not about that, because you are a complex human being and all emotions are medicine. All things have their place, their reason. But it is understanding the difference in how we feel with what we're getting. And if we are after something that is going to make us feel really good, we cannot stay rooted in behaviors that make us feel really poorly. That makes us that's like tuning in and wanting to hear our show here on OMTimes Radio, but tuning in to an entirely different station. You're not going to get the broadcast you're after. You're not going to get the content you're after. You're going to get whatever is broadcasting on that channel. Same goes with your emotional frequency. If you want that thing, be it a relationship, a new job, a new house, etc., that makes you feel good, then you need to do things and think things and believe in things that bring your emotional resonance to that level. Which brings us into the perfect segue into the next switch that we're flipping here, and that's a very close examination of your beliefs. This is often a process that is rather spiralic and takes considerable time. So patience is super key with examining our beliefs. And while it's not necessarily an instant per se type of switch to flip in terms of releasing old beliefs and aligning with the new, it is a way of getting energy to shift and to remain shifted, which is ultimately what translates into much more consistent manifesting. What most of us do not realize, and I count myself in with all of that as well, I'm one of them. What most of all of us do not realize is that on some level, we do not believe ourselves to be worthy of what we want. We do not believe ourselves to be deserving of what it is we're after. And some of us don't even think it's okay to want it. There is a part of us maybe that even feels it's unsafe to want what it is that we desire. This is a very insidious component, but by examining our beliefs, we begin to see the very foundation for the life that we have curated thus far. And we get to see and kind of examine whether these beliefs are going to further us to what it is that we desire, or if they're going to hold us back, if they're going to keep us from what it is that we desire. And that's a very real part of this, because our beliefs especially those subconscious beliefs that kind of were formed, or not kind of, were formed between the ages of about 0 and 14. They have been basically the structure, the foundation upon everything we've experienced thus far has been built. So if there is something out of alignment with our beliefs, if there's a part of us that does not believe we are worthy of what we desire, our subconscious will never allow itself to be made a liar. It will never, ever allow itself to be made a liar. That is worth repeating. So your subconscious, which is the generative part of your being, will consistently manifest the exact opposite of what it is you consciously desire. So it's very important to examine what beliefs fuel and otherwise govern what it is you are after. Where did these beliefs come from? Are these inherited from your parents, your caretakers, your family members? Are they beliefs that you formed from very difficult, maybe emotionally traumatizing experiences that now have created, almost impenetrable obstacles between you and what you want? Beliefs can be transformed simply sometimes by becoming aware of them. You cannot change anything without awareness. That's why awareness is the ultimate, in my view, spiritual component of spiritual alchemy. Because ultimately, we cannot change anything we're not aware of. And yet the moment we drag some of those beliefs from the shadowy depths and we bring them to the light, that alone is enough to begin transmuting those beliefs. Because we're going to begin to curate with a greater discernment whether we want to still claim that for ourselves. And again, this is a very, very kind of tense component and switch to flip, but it is very, very important. And it is one that if you feel you're struggling with, this is where we would reach out to somebody that we trust. We would reach out to our coach, our counselor, our mentor, or maybe look into getting one, because our beliefs hold a lot of power when it comes to manifesting. Yes, there is the energetics of manifesting. There are, the emotional frequency, the energetic broadcast, all of that. Stepping into our multidimensional self, yes, all of that is applicable. But there is also the psychology of manifesting. And if there are beliefs that are constantly sort of curating the very opposite of what you want because you may feel you're not worthy of it or it's not safe to have it, you're never going to get much momentum going. The subconscious, which again will not be proved a liar, will continue to thwart. And just to clarify, before we move into the next, which is the next switch that we're flipping, which is our thoughts, when I say that it doesn't feel safe to have it, this is not always literal. I know a lot of us are very literal and we think, well, why would it not be safe? Why would I believe it's not safe to have a relationship or to have, buckets of money or whatever it is? I'm not necessarily speaking in literal terms. Many of us, for example, those that I'm coaching who are trying to manifest more money and more success, there's a good number of them who have struggled with the fear and the feeling that having more money would threaten their being accepted by family, or that would threaten their being accepted by friends who now they are making more than. So when I speak to it feeling safe, or that potentially it feels threatening, and that's why we struggle to manifest, it's not necessarily always the very literal sort of interpretation of fear or threat. It's also those more emotional threats that can sometimes be a part of the picture. Now we're going to be moving into examining the last switch we're talking today about, and that is our thoughts. Our thoughts, number one, there's a connection between thought and belief. Our thoughts, when thought over and over again, can create new beliefs. I did this for eons and eons. I had a very destructive relationship pattern, and I would continually think these thoughts that when I would go through these really messy, toxic relationships, that the problem was me. Something was wrong with me. I wasn't ever going to attract love. I wasn't ever going to attract a healthy partner. I was going to be just like my parents, multiple times married and divorced, etc., etc. Over time, those thoughts became new beliefs that I had to then add to the rest of the beliefs that I had to reprogram and to shift in order to get what it is I was after. So our thoughts play a huge role in terms of creating and programming new beliefs, but they also have a very, very real impact on our emotional broadcast. Like we talked about before in terms of doing one thing and wanting another, our emotional broadcast and our energetic frequency is a really good way for us to tell if we're in alignment with what it is that we want. So we know if what we want is going to make us feel super, super good and we're feeling super, super poorly, we're not in alignment right now. We're not at all in alignment. We're on different pages. The same thing goes with thoughts. If I'm thinking over and over to myself that I'm not worthy or that I'm never going to get ahead, or I don't know how I'm going to pay those bills, or I don't know that I'm meant to be successful, I can't ever seem to be successful. How do you think? Just contemplate. How do you think I'm going to feel? Not very good. And I know that from my experience, but I know that this is hitting a point. I can feel it in the energy that this is hitting a point with you as well. That you are feeling this as well. That you are thinking back to times where you've kind of been on the rabbit hole of nasty, sometimes even abusive thinking and self-inner talk about yourself and your worthiness and your havingness and your deservingness, and it made you feel like 2 cents waiting for change. It made you feel like garbage, because we've all been there. But our thoughts are creating that emotional frequency. Our thoughts are furthering an emotional frequency that in this case, again, is going to take us out of alignment with what it is we desire. But our thoughts play another very crucial role, and that is on our ability to feel capable of showing up with full presence and taking the necessary actions that we need to take. If I am constantly berating myself, if I am thinking that I can't do this, or I'm thinking that it's not possible for me, then guess what? It's not possible. I'm not going to take the chance. I'm not going to be willing to go out there and take the chance to do something. I remember when I was starting my business and I was thinking of beginning to do, what is all very much in vogue these days, but was really new, at least to me then, a little bit of content marketing. I wanted to write some articles because I felt like I wrote really well, and I felt like maybe I had some things to say, and I wanted to submit them to a couple of places to see if they would publish. And over and over and over again, I talked myself out of it. Because I'm thinking to myself, do I really have something important to say? Is what I'm saying really going to matter? Are they really going to care? Who am I to think that they are going to want to listen to me drone on and on? And so I never, for the longest time, took any action. I never submitted those articles. And now I'm published in lots and lots and lots of large and small online and print publications. And I've reached virality, meaning I've had well over 2 to 3 million hits on some of the articles that I've written. And sometimes that happened literally in a span of 2 to 3 days. Why? Because we all have a voice, number one, and our medicine is needed. But it's also because I took the chance. I started thinking differently. In fact, in this case, I kind of just turned off the monkey mind. I kind of just turned off the chatter that was talking me into and out of and around everything I wanted to do so that I can move into a place of just doing. And sometimes that can be a lot easier for us than it is, trying to immediately begin thinking new thoughts. Because for a lot of us, that can feel disingenuous. If I tell myself that I'm wealthy when I know that I hardly have 2 pennies to rub together, that's going to feel very disingenuous. But if I turn off the mind and I just start doing and I just start generating and I just start saving, even if it's 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever it may be, foregoing coffee, and I'm putting that money away, pretty soon I'll have a little something. I'll have a little proof in the pudding. I'll have a little bit of a sign, a tangible thing that I can go, oh, okay. Well, that makes me feel like, oh, maybe I can do this. And then my thoughts can begin to shift, and it won't feel disingenuous. It won't feel like I'm being inauthentic or like I'm lying to myself. And I know that goes in the face of a lot of what we have talked about or what we've read in various publications or in the interwebs about manifesting. We're told to, to think it and then we'll see it. We're told to tell ourselves, and affirm that we've got all of this money and, we're super rich, or that we have loving relationships, or that this loving relationship is en route to us. And I think that has its medicine. Don't get me wrong. It really does. It has its purpose, its possibility. It makes us feel good, and that's always a good thing, especially when we go back to that emotional frequency. But for a lot of us, if we take that too far, or if we kind of feel like that's the only thing we need to do, we struggle with it. Because for a lot of us, it doesn't feel super genuine. We wonder, is this real? Like, how can I see it's not real? I'm not seeing anything. But if we can just turn off the mind for a little bit, stop talking ourselves into and around of and out of what it is that we're trying to do, and we just begin to start taking those actions, small at first, then growing and growing and growing, eventually we get to the point where we have the proof. We can see something around us that goes, oh, well, I guess my thoughts can change now. I'm seeing the proof. Because even though we are so much more than just our 3D selves, we are operating here in a human world, and our human self loves the proof in the pudding. We need sometimes that tangibility. So these are the 5 switches that are super important for us when it comes to flipping the overall manifesting switch and getting things rolling, getting them moving. We've got the closing our mouth, the being quiet, listening much, much more, talking less. We have the getting clear, getting granular, knowing what we want. And then we're going to stop doing the opposite of what we want, right? We're going to start investing more of our time in doing and aligning with what we want rather than accepting instant gratification. And then next, we're going to examine those beliefs. Join me next week. I can't wait to see you. Have a blessed week, everyone. Mwah.